no one can undo the past, but the conversation we keep putting off will only lead to more people dying by suicide every year. From 2000 to 2023, we have lost 956,626 of our friends and loved ones to suicide. Almost 50,000 people in 2023 alone. It is believed when the total number of people who died in 2024 becomes known, it will show we will have lost over 1 million people to suicide since the year 2000. If the current trend continues, by the year 2035, we will start seeing more than 58,000 deaths by suicide per year in the United States. To put that number into perspective, 58,220 U.S. service members died between 1964 and 1973 in the Vietnam War. In less than 10 years, we may see the same number of deaths to suicide every single year in the United States. If we built a wall of remembrance to the ones we have lost since 2000, it would need to be over 8,620 feet long to hold all of their names. Over 1.5 miles, a longer distance than most suicide prevention walks. We need to admit one simple truth. If current suicide prevention models worked, the numbers would not be trending in the wrong direction. Studies have shown a connection between forced hospitalization and suicide risk. Research has shown a significantly elevated risk of suicide in the period immediately following discharge. While it is true that psychiatry and medications will always have a place in mental health treatment, they may not be able to address the stressors that led to the mental health crisis in the first place.
A doctor can't find me a better job, feed my children, or keep the house warm in the winter. Medication will not pay the rent or put gas in my car. It was stress that put me in the hospital. What hurt me the most is that I knew no matter how well-intentioned, the hospital staff didn't have the tools to help. Every day I spent on that unit was another day I fell behind. My problems were still waiting for me. Suicidal thinking began when I believed I was no longer in control of my life. Being forced to stay in a hospital against my will only reinforced that belief.
There is one thing I could never understand about traditional mental health services. Being in the recovery community, I have heard the phrase, "You won't find the answer to your problems at the bottom of a bottle," when talking to someone living with a substance abuse challenge. But why is it when I talk about being depressed, stressed, or having thoughts of suicide, the first thing the doctor wants to do is hand me a bottle of pills? Pills like alcohol will not address the problems in life that cause the stress.
As times change, so must the models we use to address this growing crisis. In May of 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General said loneliness has become a national epidemic. Loneliness and isolation can affect much more than a person's mental health. He went on to highlight its profound health risks, including a heightened risk of heart disease, stroke, dementia, and premature death. The message now is that we have it within ourselves to help others who struggle. Companionship, compassion, understanding, and holding the space to share thoughts and feelings can all be done without a prescription. Human connection from people who care is the first step we can all take to create real change in the lives of others. This is where peer support begins, and those who have been trained as peer support specialists have proven themselves to be a valuable resource in a person's recovery journey. Peers understand what it means to go through a dark time in life, the sleepless nights, and the grip of hopelessness that makes it almost impossible to move. Properly trained peers use their lived experience and share their stories to not only find common ground with those they work with, but to also lead by example that recovery is indeed possible. We know the path to wellness is never a straight line, and that we will likely stumble along the way. A peer support specialist can help through the hard times, help a person feel seen, and above all else remind them that they no longer need to face these feelings alone. When you combine peer support with a safe and open space to share, you arrive at groups such as Alternatives to Suicide, Out of the Abyss, and If You're Talking, There's Time. These group models give room for people to speak freely about their feelings. Participants don't have to worry about an unwanted intervention or being taken to a hospital. What is said in the group stays there. The people who typically come to a peer-run support group are often those who have already received services from the traditional mental health treatment system, or who are still using various services through treatment providers. They share things in the group that they are afraid to share with their therapists because they know no one in the group will attempt what we refer to as a non-consensual active rescue, which means forcing someone to do something against their will. Over the years, peers who run these groups have learned one important truth. Thoughts of suicide do not necessarily manifest because a person wants to die. People get to a point where they feel trapped, stuck in a cycle of hopelessness, or because they feel worthless. Thoughts of suicide begin as a last resort or as what they perceive as their only way out. If a person does not have the power to change their situation or feel that they have exhausted every option, the only logical escape left is to remove themselves from that situation. It is for that reason we believe the solution for so many comes in the form of hope, not hospitalization. An approach that creates a balance between community resources and clinical services. A foundation built by peers who care, followed by the actions that lead to the necessary changes to lift a person out of the dark places and into the light. The bottom line is this: if we want to reverse current trends and turn the tide, we need to change our approach to preventing suicide in this country and how we treat those experiencing suicidal ideations. Now is the time to start the conversation on possible new paths forward. We must expand person-centered support that prioritizes the individual, focusing on their unique needs, preferences, and goals in a collaborative process.
If your organization would like to host a community conversation, or would like more information on this topic, please reach out to us through rockingrecovery.org. A typical presentation and conversation should last between 1 and 2 hours, depending on the number of people in attendance.